I noticed that I didn't see you come around the Daily News very much. You don't work very hard. That's why I want to be a newspaper man.
In the rich fabric of classic Hollywood, where innumerable enduring icons have made their imprint, the name Humphrey Bogart stands out as an enduring icon, a guy whose rugged good looks belie his underlying romanticism. Hollywood, where Bogart lived, was notorious for being a location where stories lived on and on. However, what exactly solidified his place in history? Were the classic parts he played, such as Rick Blaine in Casablanca and Sam Spade in The Maltese Falcon, the foundation of his exceptional talent? He became a cinematic icon. But was it the complicated stories of his private life, characterized by contentious relationships, that did it? Actor Humphrey Bogart was also a symbol of contradiction. A chilly upbringing, several failed marriages, and his contentious romance with Lauren Bacall were just a few of the dark spots in his otherwise brilliant life. The real man, powerful, vulnerable, and profoundly wounded, emerged in a world where the glitter of Hollywood could not hide everything. Come with me as I tell you the tale of Humphrey Bogart, the man whose life was a whirlwind of celebrity and darkness due to the secrets he kept from the public eye. Humphrey DeForest Bogart came into this world on Christmas Day, 1899, into a prominent and rich New York City family. His father, Belmont DeForest Bogart, was a famous cardiac surgeon, and his mother, Ma Humphrey, was an accomplished illustrator whose paycheck from big publications exceeded that of her husband, an unusual occurrence in that era's social standards. But Bogart's early years were emotionally empty, and no amount of wealth could fill them. His parents were so preoccupied with their work and their public personas that they fostered an emotionally isolated home life for their son, seeing physical touch and tenderness as extravagances. Ma was a driven and independent lady who kept her son emotionally apart from her, even going so far as to insist that he call her Ma rather than mother. This emotional distance had a profound impact on Bogart, who became a man with an outwardly tough exterior but a complicated inner life. Growing up, Bogart had it rough. He was not an academic standout despite attending Trinity and Phillips Academy, two highly esteemed institutions. On the contrary, he had the traits of a defiant youth who was both angry and hostile to authoritative figures. His parents had hoped he would follow in their footsteps and attend Yale University, but his expulsion from Phillips Academy put an abrupt stop to their hopes and dreams. Bogart looked elsewhere for significance. As the end of World War I drew close in 1918, he joined the United States Navy at the tender age of 18. The characteristic scar on his top lip, allegedly caused by an accident while on duty, is a permanent reminder of the unforgettable experiences he had while serving in the Navy. Bogart kept the scar's specifics shrouded in mystery, adding to his tough guy image on screen, even though there are conflicting tales of its origins. This was the initial stage in developing the image of the rebellious and enigmatic guy that fans would grow to adore. When Bogart left the Navy in 1919, he went back to normal life, but still felt lost. He was unsuccessful in his attempts in a number of occupations, including sales and professional chess playing. In the midst of all this upheaval, a chance encounter led to the realm of the performing arts. The role of stage manager for a theater group was brought to his attention by a friend. Despite the humble beginnings, Bogart's renewed enthusiasm for acting was sparked by the proximity to the theater and limelight. His transformation from a defiant youth to a budding actor was just the beginning. What would later become a Hollywood legend was his dogged pursuit of significance in what appeared to be setbacks. Despite lacking both familial backing and professional training, Humphrey Bogart made the audacious decision to pursue a career in the arts after finding his enthusiasm for the theater. With an insatiable appetite for performance and an interest in theater, Bogart eventually tried his hand at acting after working behind the scenes for a while. In 1921, he got his big break with a little part in a theater production. He realized acting was his genuine calling the moment he stepped onto the stage, even if the character had just one line. That was the beginning of Bogart's arduous climb to fame in the arts. The 1920s were Bogart's most prolific performing years, despite a shaky beginning. He was usually cast as dashing young gentlemen, parts that were more concerned with looks than content, and most of his performances were uninspired and shallow. He was most known for his performance as the iconic but ultimately forgettable Willie with the white pants at this time. The years of critics' criticism didn't dissuade Bogart. Rather, he saw them as a formative experience that helped him develop a grasp of character psychology and cope with the demands of performing. Above all else, he learned endurance and perseverance from his hardships, which laid the groundwork for his outstanding cinematic career. In the late 1920s, Hollywood had become a significant center for the film business, and the entertainment industry as a whole was experiencing a period of transition. The rise of film made stage theaters seem antiquated. Bogart saw a chance for a fresh start and made the switch to cinema. For a considerable amount at the time, $750/week, he inked a deal with Fox Studios. But there was no quick success from this change. Bogart was typecast in little parts in low-budget films when he first arrived in Hollywood. He failed to make an impression on reviewers and fans with his lackluster performances. In 1935, Bogart finally broke through with his performance in The Petrified Forest, a theater drama. His career took a dramatic shift at this point. In his part as the menacing and psychologically complicated mobster Duke Mantee, Bogart was able to shed the limitations of his previous performances. Viewers and reviewers alike were enthralled by his spine-tingling and multi-layered performance. Hollywood came knocking on Bogart's door after the theatrical production of The Petrified Forest was a smashing success. Warner Brothers planned to make a film version of the play in 1936, and Bogart was able to keep his part as Duke Mantee thanks to the persistence of his co-star Leslie Howard. Howard persisted, and eventually the studio gave up. They had originally wanted to cast the more well-known Edward G. Robinson. The picture was a smashing hit, catapulting Bogart from obscurity to stardom in Hollywood. This major success not only catapulted him to the next level of his profession, but it also revealed the nuanced acting that he had worked so hard to develop throughout his performing career. It was after his breakout performance in The Petrified Forest that Humphrey Bogart started to get his due in Hollywood. His path to stardom, meanwhile, was anything but easy. He went on to star in a slew of low-budget gangster flicks, including Dead End and Crime School in the years that followed. Despite his obvious brilliance, prominent studios like Warner Brothers insisted on casting Bogart in supporting or villainous parts instead than starring men. With perseverance and tolerance, Bogart made it through this stage. He didn't try to overthrow the system, but rather perfected the tough guy reputation he had always wanted. His real-life personality, strong, honest, and profoundly introspective, resonated with this picture, which mirrored the tenacity of his fictional characters. With the release of High Sierra and the Maltese Falcon in 1941, Bogart's career really began to take off. His portrayal of Roy Mad Dog Earl, the antagonist in High Sierra, demonstrated his talent for nuanced emotional expression and helped to break the pattern of stereotypical villains. Bogart portrayed a guy whose rebellious and careless side was at odds with his yearning for salvation. The performance brought nuance and empathy to a role that has often been associated with a villain. The Maltese Falcon, which came out shortly after, cemented Bogart's status as an iconic performer. Bogart brought a new kind of character to the screen with his portrayal of the cool, cunning, and razor-sharp private investigator Sam Spade. The picture became an instant classic of the noir subgenre and was a huge financial success. In the part of Sam Spade, Bogart showcased his signature style, rough, charismatic, and unforgettable, and became famous. Still, 1942's Casablanca was the watershed moment in Bogart's career. Bogart brilliantly portrayed the role of Rick Blaine, a jaded bar owner in Morocco during 1-2, displaying a combination of emotional fragility and cynicism. This part did more than just launch his career into the stratosphere. It also elevated him to the status of cinematic icon. Casablanca was widely considered to be among the all-time greats, in addition to being a commercial success. Classic Bogart lines such as, "Here's looking at you, kid," helped propel the actor to stardom. His connection with Ingrid Bergman on screen made their love story one of Hollywood's most iconic. Casablanca catapulted Bogart beyond his actor stature and into cultural icondom, despite their cold relationship off-screen. The mysterious, powerful, and selfless Rick Blaine personified all that viewers loved about Bogart. After Casablanca, Bogart had a series of hit films that further cemented his reputation. In movies like Key Largo, The Big Sleep, and To Have and Have Not, he reconnected with Lauren Bacall, who would later become his wife. The films solidified Bogart's image as a guy who is both harsh and contemplative, and they also helped boost his renown. By playing a variety of characters, Bogart also proved his adaptability. His 1951 Oscar for Best Actor performance in The African Queen demonstrated that he could enthrall viewers in roles other than his signature performances as detectives or criminals. He demonstrated his talent for giving nuanced, multifaceted characters life with his performance as a weathered riverboat captain. Despite his on-screen success, Bogart's private life was a disaster. Despite his meteoric rise to fame, his personal life was full of inconsistencies and problems, including a string of unsuccessful marriages and an intense but contentious affair with Lauren Bacall. An inspiring and perplexing life was led by Bogart. Come with us as we delve further into the obscure aspects of Humphrey Bogart's life, a legend in Hollywood and a man whose wounds and flaws showed his humanity. The life story of Humphrey Bogart was more than simply that of a legendary actor. It was also the story of a man who, throughout his relationships, battled for love and found it in unexpected places. Bogart appeared unbalanced and swept up in a storm of strong emotions throughout his first 3 marriages. There was a lot of potential in his first marriage to the gifted theater actress Helen Menken. Their partnership lacked the equilibrium necessary to maintain Menken, despite her attractive personality. Bogart was left with a lasting feeling of sadness, and the understanding that love wasn't always as enduring as he had thought, when the marriage discreetly dissolved after just 1 short year. Almost 10 years passed during Bogart's marriage to Mary Phillips, his second wife. Their professional paths, however, diverged. Phillips found happiness and security in the theater on Broadway, while Bogart was enamored with the glamorous but stressful world of Hollywood. Gradually, their marriage began to fall apart due to the physical distance and differing life aspirations. Even though it ended on good terms, Bogart felt as though he had not yet discovered his true home. The third and most troubled marriage of Bogart's life was to Mayo Method. Method had an unhealthy connection with drink and a violent temper, making her an emotionally unstable yet powerful woman. As a couple, they were a constant source of tension, since they were 2 independent spirits who couldn't compromise. Their feuds were so publicized that the Hollywood tabloids began calling them the Battling Bogarts. Method would frequently resort to throwing ashtrays and lamps at Bogart during their confrontations, transforming their marriage into an actual battleground. Because Bogart is usually quieter, he decided to sit out the mayhem, but he couldn't take it any longer. While filming To Have and Have Not in 1944, Bogart encountered Lauren Bacall amidst the ups and downs of her marriage. Bacall exuded a youthful energy, intellect, and breathtaking beauty when she transitioned from modeling to acting at the tender age of 19. Bacall was a welcome change of pace for 45-year-old Bogart, who had become weary from his own troubles. Their 25-year age gap didn't stand in the way of the special connection that developed between them. In Bogart, Bacall discovered a refreshing vitality and a deep connection he had never felt before. He was captivated by her wit, charisma, and worldliness. They started dating in secret because Bogart was worried about causing public controversy if he revealed his connection with Bacall, who he was still married to. Their love, however, was too strong to be repressed. They finally triumphed over all obstacles thanks to the safe haven they found in the moments spent together on set. After Bogart's divorce from Method was finalized in early 1945, He wed Bacall in a small ceremony in Ohio 11 days later. For Bogart, this was a watershed moment in his life. Love brought him true tranquility for the very first time. In addition to being a love tale, Bogart's marriage to Bacall was a life-altering event. Along with being a wife, Bacall was also a friend and inspiration. She had 2 children, Stephen in 1949 and Leslie in 1952, and she put her burgeoning career on hold to take care of them. Being a parent was an unexpected and incredibly rewarding position for Bogart. He became a loving family guy who found joy in life's simple pleasures after meeting Bacall. Difficulties emerged even in this picture-perfect partnership. Tensions arose from time to time due to the age difference and Bogart's persistence in excessive drinking. But they learned to love and respect one another through it all, so they didn't let it tear them apart. Bacall was the most important person in Bogart's life, and he frequently credited her with helping him discover himself. His 17-year romance with wig manufacturer Vera Miles is an under-the-radar aspect of Bogart's private life. Even after Bogart and Bacall were married, their affair persisted. To keep their connection a secret, Miles would see Bogart at her house on a regular basis while claiming to be on business. Regardless, Bogart's undying devotion to Bacall, the love of his life, remained unshaken. Light and gloom were intricately intertwined into Humphrey Bogart's private life. In addition to being a legendary figure in film, he was a real person, a flawed, vulnerable soul who never stopped looking for purpose in love and in life. Strong, sensitive, and infinitely complicated, Bogart remained a fundamentally human character behind the glittering Hollywood limelight. As Humphrey Bogart neared the end of his life, he was weighed down by the weight of both his peak career and a terrible sickness that ate away at him in silence. Despite reaching the height of his career with a series of iconic films, Bogart was unable to evade the severe obstacles that destiny had in store for him. The detrimental effects on his health from his habit of excessive smoking, which characterized both his actual life and his on-screen character, started to become apparent. As time went on in the 1950s, Bogart's deteriorating health became more noticeable. He was the epitome of resiliency and fortitude, choosing to disregard his chronic coughing and other ailments. Lauren Bacall, his loving wife, could not bear to see her husband's decline. After she insisted he consult a doctor, Bogart was found to have esophageal cancer in 1956. He and his family were both devastated by the news. Early discovery had physicians hopeful that surgery and chemotherapy may cure the disease. The esophagus and lymph nodes were surgically removed from Bogart during a gruesome procedure. Cancer, though, remained unyielding. He became weaker and weaker as the disease progressed despite subsequent rounds of treatment. The man's strength and resilience were completely diminished by the sickness. However, Bacall remained unwavering in his support, tending to him and doing her best to lift their family's spirits. Humphrey Bogart continued to work tirelessly right up until the end, despite his deteriorating health. The Harder They Fall, 1956, his last feature picture, was a moving tribute to a career spanning more than 30 years and an unforgettable piece of cinematic art. As a mirror of his personal demons, Bogart played a character who was both strong and vulnerable in this picture. His act received tremendous praise in real life, confirming that he was a legendary figure even in his last hours. Humphrey Bogart's untimely death at home on January 14, 1957, at the age of 57, devastated Lauren Bacall, his loved ones, and Bogart's legion of followers all over the globe. Lots of famous people from Hollywood showed up to his burial, which was solemn yet respectful. There were many famous faces there to say goodbye to the cherished co-worker, including Frank Sinatra, Spencer Tracy, and Katharine Hepburn. With her trademark fortitude, Bacall stood solemnly by Bogart's coffin and said, "Goodbye, Bogey." It was a simple but profoundly moving farewell. Humphrey Bogart may have passed away, but his films and his admirers will live on forever in cinematic lore. Bogart has portrayed the rough-and-tumble guy with deep emotions in more than 75 films. In addition to becoming a Hollywood icon, he personified tenacity and dedication. Some of Bogart's most iconic and critically acclaimed films are Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, To Have and Have Not, and The African Queen. Bogart did more than just play legendary characters. He revolutionized cinematic perception. He wasn't a simplistic ideal hero, but rather a multifaceted figure whose paradoxes and shortcomings made him approachable and authentic. Generations of performers were greatly impacted by this as it established a new benchmark for acting. Bogart has been named as an influence by A-list actors for his daring and complex performances, including Robert De Niro, Jack Nicholson, and Al Pacino. Bogart was a guy who lived life to the fullest, who confronted every obstacle directly, and who sought meaning and love in existence at all times. His legacy goes beyond the films he made and into his personal narrative. His unfaltering commitment to his loved ones, his deep affection for Lauren Bacall, and his fight against a devastating illness painted a picture of courage that persisted right up until the end. Lauren Bacall paid tribute to Bogart with love and admiration even after he passed away. In her biography, she penned the words, "No one could have written a love story more beautiful than the one we lived." These lines not only captured her everlasting love for Bogart, but they also condensed his life, a legend in the eyes of his fans and on-screen alike. Beyond his acting prowess, Humphrey Bogart embodied a bygone period, demonstrated the transformative power of art, and stood as a symbol of the resilience and determination of the human spirit. His legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of moviegoers even after he has been gone for almost 50 years. Invincible, resolute, and everlasting, Humphrey Bogart stands tall. Humphrey Bogart was more than simply an iconic figure from Hollywood's golden age. He personified strength, complexity, and perseverance. The tale of his life is genuinely inspiring. It begins with a remote and chilly upbringing in a prominent family, and continues through the difficult climb to the top of his profession and the personal conflicts and tribulations he endured. In spite of the hurt he felt from his past and the heartbreak he had experienced, he never wavered in his belief in himself or his ability to achieve his dreams. Feel free to share your opinions on the motivational journey of Humphrey Bogart. How has his life story or his unforgettable performances impacted you? Feel free to provide your opinions in the space provided. In order to keep studying the lives of Hollywood superstars with us, please subscribe and press the like button. My sincere appreciation for your time. Till our next video, take care. I will miss you.